ego, testosterone. Men are stubborn. They can't move off something even when they know they're wrong. Jim Harbaugh's a great coach. He's won everywhere he wins immediately. And half of you are absolutely trying to convince those of us who get it that he can't coach. So he goes to the Chargers. They have the 32nd ranked defense. He makes it number 1 with mostly the same players. Yeah, he can coach. Makes them a playoff team. So last year he gets Joe Alt. So it takes, usually in year 2, that's when Harbaugh's teams pop. So he takes Joe Alt, and now they got their 2 tackles. And in this offseason, he gets Najee Harris, power running back, maybe more of a 1A than a 1. And then yesterday he gets Amarian Hampton from UNC, power back, Joe Mixon with speed. So now he's got 2 star backs, 2 star tackles, his star quarterback, a great slot receiver, Ladd McConkey. Now they've got to go get a perimeter wide receiver and a tight end. Everything set up for him, though. But it's remarkable to me that some of you are still clinging to, yeah, he's overrated. You notice how Michigan has been thumping Ohio State for years? You do get, those are Jim's players. And nobody else seems to be beating Ohio State. Michigan is annually. So here he is on picking up. I mean, at the 22nd pick, you got that kid. Here's Jim.
To have, those 2 really great players running the football and protecting it in the backfield and being able to catch passes out of the backfield. I mean, I think they're both outstanding. We're really fired up to have made our team better tonight, and then back to work tomorrow to keep making the team better.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers ultimately play, Harbaugh especially. They ultimately play the brand of football that I always preach, and the brand of football that I love and that I believe into my core. It's not the most fun to watch necessarily, right? Watching a high-powered offense that's throwing the ball, like watching the Bengals, watching Joe Burrow throw all over the field, like that's fun, right? Watching the high-flying Kansas City Chiefs when they were kind of at their peak in terms of their offense with Tyreek Hill and prime Travis Kelce, it's like that's fun. Like that is fun. You can admit that even if you're a Chargers fan, right? Like it's fun to watch. But I'm such a firm believer in this style of football because it ultimately makes you the most resilient. And it's the most organized, it's the most clear, it's the most defined, and it's the most simple in terms of all the players just get what they need to do. And it also puts effort really high up there, where it's like if you put in the effort, we're designing a team and an offense, or just a team as a whole, not just an offense, but in terms of like if you put in the effort, we're going to get wins. It's almost like it becomes less skill dependent. And we know this to be true because notice how, again, to keep with the Kansas City Chiefs, they've had to change their style of offense because some of the skills is not there now. And so on one side, if you have this really fast, high-powered, explosive offense, then are you more resilient in the sense of you could be down by 20 and still find a way to win? Absolutely, right? But when you start dealing with injuries, when you start dealing with weather, when you find yourself in an uglier, low-scoring game, the offense is kind of like confused. They don't really know what to do. And again, unless you're really organized, unless you have a great coach who now knows how to pivot on the fly and a quarterback who's willing to pivot on the fly, it's like, hey, we're playing small ball here. We just got to move the chains. We have the lead by 3. That's good enough. Our defense is playing great. Let's keep going. Not all teams can do that. And the Packers are an example of that. You saw it firsthand in the playoffs against the Eagles. They needed to play some small ball, more conservative ball, especially with all their injuries, and they couldn't do it. And they were still trying to go for some of these big plays, these big throws. They led to turnovers, and they lost. Whereas the Eagles were like, nah, we're good. And again, I love that Tom Brady pointed it out because the fans were booing. It was like 3rd and long or something, and the Eagles handed the ball off, and the fans were booing. And Tom Brady's like, no, like this is smart. You have the lead. The Packers are all disconnected. Like just be smart. Don't turn the ball over. Don't do something that is going to change everything. And yet we still see teams do this all the time. We see quarterbacks do this all the time. And so you build such a level of resiliency with a suffocating defense, a dominant O-line, and a dominant run game. And when you have your superstar quarterback who's now going to be able to, he can make any throw all over the field, but now you just expect him to be an elite game manager and then occasionally, stretch the field and do what needs to be done. Boom. Like that's how you win. That's how you can be so much more resilient in all of the different flavors of these, of these games that the NFL can kind of ask you to win. And like I said, it becomes so much more simplified going into any game, no matter who you're playing, whether you're playing the Broncos, whether you're playing the Chiefs, whether you're playing the Eagles, the Ravens, the Bills. Like it just becomes very simplified, and make no mistake about it, the more simplified you can make your team, your game plan, the game for these players, the better, right? Like that is the job of a coach, is to simplify everything for these players. And that is why someone like a Harbaugh wins everywhere, because it is very much a copy and paste, and it's not so dependent on having the best guys. No one thinks, a lot of people don't believe that, JJ McCarthy is this elite top 5 quarterback. Minnesota Vikings fans believe it, and maybe that'll end up being the case, but he didn't need to be that in college. I did a whole video about it, and I defended JJ McCarthy, but they didn't need him to be Patrick Mahomes, and yet they won very convincingly in many games, and many big games as well. And so I love the structure, and I love the timeline this has been built. And it's so funny because I've been making so many videos, obviously, about the draft, and I keep talking about I just had the feeling that I was, my take of last year about the Chargers was just proven correct. And now the takes that I'm making right now for other teams, I can now use the Chargers as proof of me being correct. And I just realized that in real time. So, it's pretty funny. But I kept saying you got to look at the Chargers on the timeline of a 1 to 2 to 3 year timeline. And now you can see a lot of people are upset. They built the O-line. They're like, well, come on, we need a weapon. We need this or that. And they paid the consequences for not having that this season. But they got their O-line set up, and now they got a great running back. And now, they got 2 running backs, 2 bully running backs with a great O-line, great quarterback, great defense. You are going to be a great team. You are going to get wins. Like, I just don't see how it's possible not to. And that's why you got to keep looking at drafts. And especially if you're getting a new coach, you can't just look at it through a narrow lens. You can't look at it through a singular, 1 year, which is why I ripped everyone who kept trying to pretend that Justin Herbert and Harbaugh have to win a bunch of playoff games this year to prove that they're great. And I was like, it's never been about that. It's never been about year 1. It's always been about year 2, year 3, and beyond, without a shadow of a doubt. We can try to paint this manipulated picture, but it's just wrong. And Colin's like, oh, people don't believe in Harbaugh. That's because Kansas City Chiefs fans are at an all-time high right now, obviously, although they might be kind of on the downward trend. So that means you're going to have a lot of Chargers haters. You're going to have a lot of Broncos haters. You're going to have a lot of Raiders haters. You're bringing in a lot of new fans to the Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes, and who's the enemy? The Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Eagles. And there you go. Like that's how you get a lot of the talking points that you see. But, again, look at these drafts and look at these trajectories on a multiple year basis, not singular. And, it's not just a single season timeline that you're looking for something. And so you can see now the steps that it takes to kind of right this ship and to become a great team. And you can see the identity and the style of play that Harbaugh and the Chargers want to play, how they want to do it, and how they double down on what they want to do. Because they easily could have been like, hey, we just got Najee Harris. We already have a great O-line and quarterback. Let's now use this pick to get, one of the best wide receivers in the draft. Like, they could have done that. But instead, they're like, no, let's get a workhorse running back. And let's now have a 1-2 dominant run game. Let's really be suffocating. We know our defense is great. Our run game's now finally truly going to be great. We're going to dominate the time of possession. We have a great wide receiver, not the true wide receiver that we really want to use. We're going to get a wide receiver, our tight end, and then boom, Herbert will be able to take care of the rest. The rest is just managing the game from both coaches, offense and defense. And it's like, how can you look at the Chargers and think that they will be anything but great? And I think it's just a beautiful timeline in terms of seeing how quickly you can go from a terrible team, a 5-win team, to a playoff team, to what, I'm looking at this team now and it's like anything short of like a conference championship game. And I'll be like, like, again, the only way from my viewpoint that it would be okay to come up short is if you essentially are, you're essentially in the conference championship game, but it's like the divisional round, right? Like, it's like clearly you're playing like one of the best teams in the, in the AFC. And it's like, the winner of this game, you feel like, all right, like they're set to win this, they're set to like truly win this. Like, that's the only way, because again, I do think it's always a who's who when like the Bills and the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bengals are playing. Like, it doesn't matter if they're in the conference championship game, the divisional round, heck, even the wild card. Like, you're just, but it, like, essentially, like, I feel like, and it's hard to really try to predict this too far, but it would be a tough pill to swallow to lose to any other team except for the Bills, the Ravens. I don't even know if I would be confident to even say the Chiefs right now. I'd have to see what their offense truly looks like. If their offense is still a little stagnant and they're still kind of continuing that trajectory that they had over the last couple of years, then I would say no. Like, you should be able to beat the Chiefs. Your defense should be better than them or comparable to them. And quite frankly, your offense should be more potent. Unless their offense is able to really get momentum with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, et cetera, et cetera. And Mahomes kind of looks more like he did in, 2021, 22, et cetera. But if they're still continuing their kind of sluggishness, their offense that they've had over the last 2 years, then no, I don't, then it's just like, no. The only teams that I'm okay with the Chargers losing to in the playoffs would be the Bills and the Ravens. And again, it's not to say that you can't beat those teams, but it's just like, all right, yeah, you lost to Josh Allen, right? Like, and they've been at building this team for years as well. Like, you're technically a little bit behind them. So I think the Chargers are in an awesome spot. I'm charged up. I'm fired up for them. And I just think that, Harbaugh and how the Chargers have unfolded over the last couple of years is the perfect representation. And like I said, in all these other videos that I'm making for all these other teams talking about their draft, I keep talking about, like, think about what you need to draft this year and next year. Like, unless you're like, again, like the Bills, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, like, where you're really just like a draft away from being a true Super Bowl contender. It's like, what are you looking at? Because people are criticizing the Raiders. And I'm like, you got your Ashton Genty. So you got your Amari Hampton. And now next year, you get your alt. Doesn't mean you don't have to do one, and there's no direct order for this, right? Sometimes you get the guy that you can, and then the next draft, there you go, and then boom, here you are. Look at things looking at year 2, year 3. That's the way how these things get built. It's so rarely, if ever, year 1, boom, win Super Bowl, there you go. Just not the way it works. So yeah, I love it. I definitely love it. And I love that it's a clear example of how to build a team, how to win games, and how to go from a bad team to a great team, and how a great coach builds a team, and how even when you have a great quarterback, building your run game, your O-line, and your defense is only going to put you in a better situation. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the San Diego Los Angeles Chargers? In their draft, you excited about what they're looking to do from their run games, considering their draft and offseason moves. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.